would like to welcome everyone in attendance here today. Please turn off your cell phones if you haven't done so already. Thank you very, very much. We will begin with the scheduled work session on the proposed FY 2015 budget. And at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our #1 superintendent in the state of Maryland.
Oh, you're only one. Remember that.
See what he says? Remember that. Dr. Martirano.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, board members, you've been given a document that I have been keeping under lock and key for the last 24 hours. Members of the press, you will get a copy of this momentarily. And is this on? We're all set? Board members, this is an unusual start to our budget hearing because we're going to deviate and we're going to take a different turn here today and talk about something that is extremely important, our graduation rate, which is absolutely the pinnacle of what I define as the holy grail of data points for school systems in America. It is by far the driver that drives all of us throughout our work. Present today as I begin to talk about this, I've been bottled up all day to talk about this and holding all these thoughts. We have present with us today our entire leadership of the school system. That's how important this is as we're all dealing with our snow days and all the things that we've had to readjust. And let me announce that I just canceled after-school activities, so just be aware of that. In the midst of everything else, other parts of the world are happening. After-school activities have been canceled for this evening. The board meeting, however, will continue. Come whatever kind of element, that action will continue. So no more wearing your pajamas inside out, please. Please, we've reached our 6 days, and I'll talk about that at the board meeting this evening. We had a press release to go out about that today. I've just pulled that back because there could be something happening tomorrow. But we'll see. Let's not talk about that for now. We're talking about sunshine and happiness, and life is good. So today I'm going to talk to you about our 4-year graduation rate. Again, as I frame this, having our elementary principals here, our middle school principals here, our high school principals here, flanked by the leadership of the school district. These are the individuals who are the frontline site administrators, working with our teachers and our staff who deliver the vision of this school system every day. And for the sustainability of our time working together, it has been an unwavering focus to do everything that we can to improve the quality of life for the young people in St. Mary's County, to achieve the level of highest academic performance for all the students in our school district. And as a lot of the indicators shift, there are several indicators that don't shift, that remain consistent. Attendance rate, suspension rate, dropout rate, graduation rate, poverty rate. And let me frame some of those for you because those are indicators, and I know the principals and our administrators and supervisors all understand and all agree the importance of those indicators because community can relate to those indicators. When we start talking about SPI and AMO and AYP, people glaze over. I mean, it's hard for us sometimes to fully understand it and all the metrics that go into that. But when we talk about graduation rate, when we talk about dropout rate, when we talk about farms rate, suspension rate, and attendance, those variables are all variables that the majority of community can understand, and they're relevant and they're meaningful, and every member in our community, 110,000 members of the St. Mary's County community, needs to understand the importance of those metrics and be in tune to those metrics and hold individuals accountable for those metrics, because so goes the school system, so goes the county in that sense. So when we're thinking about the delicate balance of all those variables together, it's important for all of us to watch those. So as I frame that at a higher level, the free and reduced meals rate, the poverty level, there's no question. There is a great poverty gap in America. It's growing daily. There's conversations nationally in the news about it today. During our time working together, we've seen our free and reduced meals rate go from 23% to 33%. A 10% increase. So keep that point in mind. Our attendance rate is at an all-time high with well over 90%. So young people in school every day. our suspensions have dropped exponentially throughout our time working together. More young people attending school, more young people staying in school, more young people being afforded opportunities for interventions if they are making decisions that are not the best decisions. Taking a look at the attendance, as I've said, the poverty rate, dropout rate, graduation rate, all these play together in terms of that. So as I talk today, I want you to understand a lot of other variables I could put out there too, that our school system has experienced great growth. Our school system has right now some of the most talented teachers ever, at the highest level of highly qualified teachers that we've ever had. So all of these things working together, and I want all the individuals in here, and you know this as well as I do, there's not one silver bullet that works. If we say, if we just do this, then everything's going to be magical. But all of these things working in tandem, working together, make a big difference. So to quote Jim Collins, we've got the right people on the bus, we got them on the right seats, we're going in the right direction, and sometimes we have to move the wrong people off the bus. Because we know I have great confidence in all these leaders that are right in front of me today, our principals, our school system leaders in terms of each one of our areas, supervisors all through this district. There is great confidence in our synergistic work. And everybody recognizes, as I symbolically have put the high school principals in the front of this bus today, that they all recognize that it's not just at the high school level, that the work starts at the early intervention stages. And so as you hear me advocate for pre-K, universal pre-K, and early interventions to close those gaps of poverty, it becomes critical. So the work that's occurring at the elementary level in pre-K, Head Start, which we now have our full program, our kindergarten program, full day implementation, recognizing it starts with literacy and numeracy. And so that level, so when I say to you, one of our points of action is to have all young people reading with a high level of proficiency by the beginning of grade 3, that's critical. I know you all agree. Because if a young person can't read, as you talk about the juxtaposing of those three words, learning to read and reading to learn, if a child can't read, how can they read to learn in that sense? So we recognize what occurs with the curriculum as it advances through, it becomes more challenging. And those indicators of success start emerging early on. But also we recognize, as we have Wendy Zimmerman here, who's coached me many times in terms of predictive evidence of data, that early on at the elementary level, that if a child starts waning in attendance, if they aren't showing up, issues of suspension start increasing, those all put that child at risk. And now if you go the other end of the continuum, and you look at all the variables that place a child at risk at the high school level, whether it's teenage pregnancy, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's a variety of different family supports that aren't there, you can name a myriad of challenges that young people experience that get in the way from completing that high school diploma. And we know, ladies and gentlemen, that if you don't have a diploma in 2014, you're behind the starting line. So as you hear me talk at graduation, it's not the finish line, it's the starting line. And if you don't have a diploma, you're not even at the line to start. And we know right now the way that society's changed technologically, I should say, if you don't have those skills when we talk about college and career readiness, it's very challenging for success. And we also know the research and data about the pipeline to prison. The aspect if a child drops out of school, the likelihood that a child will show up in the detention center is extremely high. We also know those indicators in terms of quality of life if they don't have a high school diploma. So what drives us every day? I'm asked always these poignant questions. What drives the work of this district? The work that's driven by this district is our common belief that all children can and will learn, and that we believe that every child will succeed, and that we're going to prepare them for college and careers to be 21st century successful citizens so that they can have that productive life. So that is driven by all of us, and it's not just a high school thing. It's a middle school thing, it's an elementary thing, it's all community thing that we all need to galvanize our efforts around. So if there are elected officials, if there are community leaders, if there are individuals who are always talking about this, business leaders, everybody has a vested interest in the educational value and levels of our community. And so when you have more dropouts and students not going on to college or not being completed in the high school, it's something that causes a concern for community. So this is not just a school system issue. This is a community issue, it's a state issue, and it's a national issue. So we really need to understand the importance of that. So the goal for our school system has been to have a graduation rate of 90%. The goal of Colin Powell and his foundation, the American Promise, is 2020. By 2020, all schools in America to be at a 90% graduation rate. I listened to his wife Alma speak last week on Martin Luther King's birthday in talking about the issue, the aspect of the greatest civil rights issue right now in America is education. As we move forward and we think about the civil rights in terms of that, the constant struggle and the advancement, the greatest civil right issue now when you talk about achievement gap and poverty gap is the educational gap. All of that pertaining to the advancement for young people to be able to be successful. So as I frame that at the level of a high level of why we do what we do, I want to get into the details of our overall graduation rate. I just didn't assemble you here for me to preach today. But I think it's important for you to understand, as you all understand, as you talk to your communities, the importance of why we do what we do and how we frame it and what the numbers actually mean. So I want you to absorb this information. For our members of the press, I will have this report for you. But I'm going to go through this in a very clear, focused way, and we're going to do a little bit of celebrating today. So I think I've already tipped my hat to say that this is really good news, or I wouldn't have brought you out of school if it wasn't. So let me frame this for you. The 4-year graduation adjusted cohort rate. There's oftentimes a lot of conversation about a 5-year graduation rate, a leaver rate, which is the old rate, the 4-year adjusted cohort rate. And I don't want to read to you for the sake of reading, but I think it's important to enter this into the record. The 4-year adjusted cohort graduation rate is the number of students who graduate in 4 years with a regular high school diploma divided by the number of students who form the adjusted cohort for the graduating class. For any given cohort, students are entering for the first time form a cohort that is subsequently adjusted by adding any students who transfer into the cohort later during the next 3 years and subtracting any students who transfer out, emigrates to another county or country, and dies during that period of time. So basically understanding the 4-year adjusted cohort rate is the number of students who graduate in 4 years, that total number, with a regular high school diploma divided by the number of students who form that adjusted graduating cohort class. So you start with a certain number of students in 9th grade, and you want to follow them the whole way through, and you do your quick math on that. Relatively simple. So let me now frame it at a higher level. So before I get into our rate, you need to understand how do we compare. So anybody in here during my time of working with you who have been trained in the area of data analysis and understand that data points can be interpreted in a variety of different ways. And you have all been schooled in the area to ask, in comparison to what? So when we throw out a number, board members, you've been trained in this arena too. When I throw a number out, you have to say, how does that compare to what? And the what can be a lot of different issues, but there's where the details lie. There's where you make your innovations and make your decisions about data based upon when you ask the right questions. So let me give you an idea right now that the graduation rate for the state of Maryland is 84%. Now keep that in your thought bubble right now as I go through these numbers. The graduation rate aggregate for all students in Maryland is 84.9%. The United States, we've had an uptick, which is good news. 74, 76, the latest data is showing an increase to 78%. That's an uptick, but still not quite as high as we want. And then take a look, when you have an average, what's the mathematical issue? You've got to have a lot on the other end that brings that down to 78%. Obviously a lot on the other end of high percentages to bring it up that high. But still as a nation, if the goal is 90% by 2020, there's a lot of work to be done. And every part of the community, every part of the country needs to focus on their community to get this achieved. So keep those two numbers in mind, because I'm going to refer back, 78 and 84. So I reveal to you today the graduation rate for St. Mary's County is 91.5%.
Hey!
You need to celebrate on that. You need to celebrate on that. You need to understand, because now, from there, I'm going to tell a story. From there, I'm going to tell a story because that's a number. And that's an important number to talk about. But 91, I think I didn't give it full credit. 91.5%. Now, what was the state average?
84.
I want to make sure you're paying attention. 84.
84.9.
What's St. Mary's? 91. What's the United States? 78. What's St. Mary's? 91.5. So now, breathe and say, in comparison to what?
Fantastic.
We're higher than the national average. We're higher than the state average. And I guarantee you we're higher than many of the counties in the state of Maryland in terms of that. I mean, you take a look at where we are in terms of that. And that's all good stuff. So now we need to say, in comparison to what? Where were we? Not too long ago, we were at 82%. 2011, we were 83%. 2012, 87.7. Remember, I rounded that to 88 because that sounded better. We're now at 91.5. 91.5. And Maryland is 84.97. It's an 8.74% increase during that 4-year period of time. That's a remarkable gain. The high school principals sitting here intimately recognize how difficult it is to move that needle 1 percentage point. And I'm going to talk about each one of them individually and as it builds back in, because the conversations are there. And the question we're going to end with, why is this happening and how will this continue the work as well? So 91.5. SMCPS has outpaced the Maryland average by 6.5% in 2013. We've increased 8.74% in the past 4 years, and this is the highest recorded graduation rate in the history of our county. In the history of the public schools in St. Mary's County that we've been keeping this, this is the highest ever. So continuing to move forward, there's more information. We disaggregate the information for our African American students. You know how important the achievement gap, the poverty gap has been in terms of our discussion. That was all students, but when you have a graduation rate that's that high, that means all boats are rising. And so as we disaggregate that data a little further, we take a look at where we were in 2010, and the graduation rate for African American students in 2010 was 72.6%. Not real proud. What was the national average? Yeah, see where that currently is, see how we compare just for our African Americans, but look where we are now. 85.17% for our African American students. Take a look at this is the highest recorded graduation rate for African American students in the history of our county. Increased the graduation rate by 12.48% for African American students during those 4 years. At a time, what did I say it increased? 8.74% as a total system. African Americans outpaced that overall gain. Look at where we are, 12.48. SMCPS has outpaced the Maryland average by 6.91% for African American achievement. So if we compare that to state African American performance, we've outpaced that by 6.91% in terms of gain. That deserves a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. So the details become critical. We can say the aggregate numbers, but in comparison to what? Now, for those of you who are going to ask me all those other questions, what about? And I want those questions. We're doing an initial data scan, and not all the data is available right now for our free and reduced meals and a variety of different issues, but we're going to have that in a collated way to make those comparisons as well. But this is a huge data point that I watch every day. Now, let's celebrate our schools. Let's celebrate our schools. Mr. Garth Bowling, the proud principal of Chopticon, during his tenure in the work of his staff and his community, has moved the graduation needle from 85.5 to 90.5% at Chopticon High School. And everybody in the feeder path at Margaret Brent, at the elementary schools in that area, deserves a round of applause, because Garth would be the first one, if he were to take the podium from me, and good luck trying to take it right now, would be the first one saying that it's the collective effort. It's a collective effort of not only of his current staff and students and parents and administrators and all of his staff, but all the individuals that have feed into Chopticon High School, and the collective efforts of our vertical articulation of our school system's instructional program. So again, just give Chopticon High School a round of applause, please. Let's move to Leonardtown High School. And when I assigned Miss Montgomery to Leonardtown High School, I said, you're already a high-performing school at 88.04%, but I'm not satisfied. And she kind of looked at me quizzical, like, you know, we're a really good school, but I said, we can be an even better school. We've not achieved our fullest potential. And when you're at a high level of performance already, she knows it better than anybody. It's just as difficult to get that higher level when you're in high-performing schools, to go even higher, because you've already achieved and harvested that low-hanging fruit, that mid-size hanging fruit. To get that last pieces of where we are, it's difficult. But during Miss Montgomery's tenure, the graduation rate has gone from 88.04% to 93.98%, which in my mind is 94 in that sense. So give her a round of applause for the work there, for the middle schools feeding in, to all the elementary schools feeding in, and the collective work of our supervisors and all of our staff that are working there as well. And Miss Montgomery, as we've had lots of conversations with you, she would also acknowledge the collective efforts of everybody that's making that happen. It's just not a senior thing, and it's just not a high school thing. Now we move to Great Mills. So look at those numbers. Look at those numbers. You know, this is really powerful stuff. So when you look at those numbers and you see 75.61 a few years ago, and in a school where people said things about the school that were just unacceptable, and the belief that wasn't there in our children, 89.3% graduation rate for Great Mills right now is unbelievable, but more importantly, it is believable. And we all need to celebrate this. Give Great Mills a huge round of applause for their work. 89.3% is unbelievable. Now, I've been trying real hard not to be emotional today, but those who know me well know that that's almost impossible. When you're working with young people and you know what these numbers represent, and you know the power in each one of these numbers, 89.3% at a time when it was at 75%, and look at that gain, almost a 15% gain. And Ms. Heibel, the former principal here, Dr. Limas, who was here previously, the principals who've come before, Dr. Raspa, a principal before, the collective efforts. This is the school that has the highest level of poverty, the greatest level of diversity, and in community where there have been some things that I've already stated that I've not been pleased about. We have gone in there as a collective school system community and really have lived up to our motto that we believe all children can and will learn. We've put programs in there that benefit our young people. We have a belief in all of our young people, and the proof is in the numbers. And it's absolutely phenomenal. And I have also in the front row our representatives of Fairlead, and I'm going to talk about them momentarily because they have a collective piece in all of this, but the work is occurring collectively, and I'm going to talk about them as a separate piece momentarily. But I want you to absorb these numbers, and again, did I tell you? Our graduation rate is 91.5% as a school district. And so your homework tonight is to tell everybody, to include it in your newspaper, your newsletters, and all of your articles and all of your print media, to tell your community, because the confidence in public education in St. Mary's County is such at a palpable, high level, and we're so thrilled with the work that's occurring. So absorb those numbers and bear with me as I continue. There's your increases over that period of time. 4% at Chopticon, 5.9% at Leonardtown, 13.72 at Great Mills increase, and an 8.74% increase overall. And we're so proud of those numbers because they're real. They represent young people.
Dr. Martirano, please excuse me. I think the board at this time would like to stand and give everyone in this room, with the entire staff, okay, we want to stand up and give everyone an applause that is beyond one's imagination.
You're the board. It's your prerogative.
Board members. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Because it takes the staff, and it's just like the superintendent's been saying, it goes back down to the middle schools and the elementary schools, kindergarten. It's a continuum, and it's worked.
Right.
It's worked. There's the proof. Thank you very much. Thank you on behalf of the Board of Education.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. We'll have another opportunity to stand in a moment. We're not done yet. So now let's disaggregate that a little further in terms of our African American performance. A little slight decrease at Chopticon. Increase, but again, 87%. Did I say that right? 87 over the 4-year period. We've had an increase from the previous year. 87.1% for our African Americans at Chopticon. Leonardtown was 77.19. It's now 88.24. A 9.17% increase.
Oh,
phenomenal. I'm going to skip over, look at our overall number again, 12.48 for St. Mary's County. Let's come back to Great Mills. Was 67.82, a number that I was none too happy about, and that's been consistent years prior to. But during the consistent period of time, the rate for African Americans has now increased 16.18% to 84% overall in terms of overall graduation rate. And again, our African American increase from 72.69 to 85.17 for SMCPS altogether. So that number, these numbers right here, remember how I framed it? At a time when our poverty level is increasing, at a time when we have growth, at a time when there's a lot of other variables. And again, I have to add in, we're one of the lowest funded school systems in the state of Maryland. And we're able to make all of these adjustments and do what's right on behalf of children with all this information. So now I bring us to the dropout rate, and that becomes just as good. So the higher graduation rate, we hope the correlation exists that the dropout rate is going to be lower as well. Again, in comparison to what? Take a look at the Maryland rate. A few years ago, it was 11.93. Steadily has dropped. The first time what they're putting out in MSDE is the first time the graduation rate has dipped below 10% in the state of Maryland. It's at 9.36. St. Mary's County, we've hovered around 10. We were at the lowest ever, 8.84. We're now at 5.91. Take a look at that number, a decrease in 5% expectation. As one goes up, the other one's going to go down. And we're very pleased about that. We've decreased the dropout rate by 5.07%. So the last point I want to make is why all this is happening. And you as the policy drivers of the school system, for representatives in our community and our elected officials who fund this school system, need to understand that how did we get here? So it's not been just one silver bullet, as I've already said, or one magical piece of information, but all of these working collectively. And I've put two issues out there that I firmly believe have been transformational. And I want to use that word. I've waited to use that word. I talk about how do we transform culture, how do we transform action in terms of school districts. So there's a lot of people who just want to populate the school district with programs. But in a continuous improvement model, you need to be able to evaluate and say, where do you get the most effort for those programs? Stop doing the ones that aren't working and begin doing the ones that are, and fund the ones to a higher level with a higher level of robust funding where you're going to get the better results. So the first two that I really highlight is Fairlead Academy. And the collective work there, these are young people that in many ways would not be graduating from high school. If you talk to Wendy Zimmerman, who has put this thought in my head, I use this quote probably 3 times a week. She really shook me up one day when I said the 8th graders that we've identified for our first cohort in Fairlead, what do you think the predictive graduation rate, Wendy, would be for those young people without this program? And I was shocked when she said 15 to 20%. And they're both nodding their heads right here. I thought that was really low. Not in St. Mary's County. But again, when you use the data and you focus and you pull out the young people that need the additional supports, that stuff becomes relevant. Our first year cohort of graduation, which would fall in here if I could figure out where that exactly happened. I should have put an arrow when Fairlead came on and Apex and a variety of others. Our first year graduation rate for that cohort was 88%. Not too bad. When the predictive evidence was 15 to 20, we put them in smaller class sizes, longer blocks of instruction, hand-picked the staff, a level of intentionality and belief, and failure was not an option with the understanding of getting how many credits at the end of that first year? 7 credits. We sign contracts with them, we know the young people, and that becomes a family within a family. And the rate the second year of the cohort was over 90%. So whatever it takes was our motto. Kissing fishes or whatever it was, we'll do whatever it takes. But that collective piece of data, keeping those young people in that were destined for failure and destined for dropout, and many of the young people were in a life, in a cycle of poverty, and in a cycle where when I talk to them, as we do, they knew way too many family members and people who had dropped out of school. So fulfilling that almost aspect of what was expected and breaking that cycle is what Fairlead has done. Give the individuals from Fairlead a big round of applause, both of you schools. So another great intervention in our school system, and we will continue to keep Fairlead at a high level, and you know that. That's one program that will remain in place and will continue with strong fidelity to the work because it's making a difference. The next major intervention was Apex. Apex is an online delivery. It ties right into our recovery model. Before we were using the archaic system of evening high school, which high school principals will tell you, taking the collective individuals who weren't successful in the day and put them all together at night, and guess what? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and getting the same results. And so therefore we were doing that. Having the courage to say that isn't working. These programs are stop and now do something different. Apex has come on with such gangbusters, and we've all had testimonials about that. The young people are using blended learning opportunities, online resources, using it for credit recovery, original credit, opportunities for unit recovery, and it has made a tremendous difference. You can talk to them about that and how we're expanding that opportunity, because there's going to be conversation about that in the budget, and I'm making a real strong case right now why that needs to be funded fully. So those two working together at the high school level, not to mention the College Access Program, the Access Program where you've heard testimony from our own student board member. Without the College Access Program, college may not be an option for me. The study skills, the number of young people that have been through that program, particularly at Great Mills, when you as Principal Heibel stand up and say, how many of you have been through the College Access Program, and 2/3 of your school stands up or your graduating class stands up, that's powerful. Because the belief system is I can and I will. But you have to also realize that, you know, all of us in this room are educated. We all know what college is. But if you're from poverty and your parents have never gone to college, and you say, somebody tells you, I want you to go to college, you go, I don't even know what it is. I've never been there. I don't even know what college is. And we've had that happen when we take our Fairlead students to St. Mary's College, and then, and again, whatever it takes, a student said to me, I didn't know what college was, but I sure know right now there's a lot of pretty girls and there's a lot of food you can eat in the cafeteria. Well, if that's whatever it is, and then eventually, a lot of food and a lot of pretty girls. Okay. But eventually we got around to the conversation about, hey, Dr. Martirano, tell me about those AP things. I think I might need to take one of those. those conversations would not have occurred. And when you break down that reality of what that is. Flow mentoring, our representatives in here, providing each child with a mentor, somebody who believes in you, and all of you can think about who was it in your life who told you that you could and believed in you and made that big difference. Every child needs a mentor, somebody in their life who says that, particularly when the world is pretty heavy and bad things are happening to you around you. The academic counseling that is occurring is unbelievable. Our process and product, which has been controversial, but yet extremely powerful in terms of what's happening in the classroom, the undergirding, the underpinning of the importance of recovery, that when a young person fails, that they have opportunities to recover, that it doesn't mean that you're one and done, that there's an opportunity for you to recover. You remember we've made a difference and a distinction and a shift to the year-long courses, and this is all input from your principals, giving us this kind of input. This is what matters. Looking at your gaps, analyzing those gaps, and plugging those gaps to make things better. We're no longer on semesterized courses, but year-long courses. The aspect of all the principals vertically aligned here by design, elementary, middle, and high, to symbolically make a point. The vertical articulation, the connection, what's happening instructionally at the elementary level, building to middle, to high. PLCs, where we're having those conversations about instruction, where those gaps are and how it all builds. Having conversations about young people, that every young person matters. Using the Teacher Access Center and the Home Access Center. Opportunities for more accountability. Hack and tack. All of you have been a part of this. You've advanced these. Ongoing communications. I've had young people say to me, you know so much about me. Our parents know about it before we even get home. Good. That's a good thing because we believe in you and we want you to succeed. Our Pathways program, without a question, the belief system that not one size fits all, that no two children learn on the same way on the same day, the basis for our Global International Studies program, the Dr. Forrest Career and Technology Center, the National Academy of Finance, our STEM program, and our Tech Connect program. All of these programs, not to mention the list that these principals could generate, highly qualified teachers and staff, small class sizes, a robust program of offering for all the courses, and the communications in a community that truly cares about kids. We are a true community that cares about kids. So, I don't want to end. I want to bring it back to this slide. I want you to absorb that. I want you to understand that what's our graduation rate?
91.5.
Tell everybody tonight.
92.
Tell everybody tonight. Well, okay, so I got to tell some stories. I'm going to end with a couple anecdotes because we're going to do something symbolic. So, when you get this kind of information, it's real hard not to share. It's real hard. So we've kept it embargoed. And Scott Smith, who is not here today, had some family matters has to tend to. I give him great credit for bringing everybody together. Dr. Marr, who is not here today, both of them have worked so closely with me, with all the staff, to bring all this together. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge them. But we talked strategically about how we would communicate this, and we told the high school principals, and I followed up with a text message. And each one of them had a wonderful response. It was on a football day, wasn't it? It was on Sunday, actually, and all of you chimed in immediately with a response. All gave credit back to team. You wouldn't expect anything any different. But one was a little different. Jake Heibel, I'm not saying he's different, but he got me at the event where I was at the Jeopardy event, and I did not show real well there. I couldn't ever work the buzzer, and we were at the basketball game. He immediately, and you lost a really tight game, and we were out on center court, and he was talking to me about, if I just had 5 more students, I could have been at 90%. You see that drive and that passion. All of them have that fire to be able to do that. I guarantee you Great Mills is going to be there this year in that sense. So this has been very powerful information. You have some dynamic principals that I have full confidence in. You have dynamic directors and leaders and coordinators. The instructional talent in this room, the leaders on the other side of the room, our specialty areas, all of our curriculum areas are just phenomenal. It's wonderful to be able to be a superintendent of a district such as this when you have great people who are constantly working on behalf of children. And great leaders focus in on terms of the process and the product all day long, but they always tend to the vision. And they always tend to the vision, and they always tend to the people. So you can have great processes and you have great product, but systems fail because they're not tending to the people and they're not tending to the vision. Our vision is focused and clear. It's uncompromising and unwavering, that we will not be satisfied until every young person graduates from St. Mary's County Public Schools with a meaningful high school diploma. So on behalf of everybody in our county, I congratulate you and I commend you, and a round of applause for all of you from all of us. So, before I open this up, because you're going to have to just be patient a little bit longer, before we have the board make some comments, I want to do something. You know, just allow us for this moment to bask in this great news. I'm going to ask at this time that the legion of individuals who are around the room, would you distribute a cup of non-alcoholic sparkling cider that I purchased personally, not on taxpayer dollars, to distribute to everybody in this room. And what I want to do is, once we do that, we'll move that quickly. Maybe we can get some other people to help out back there to distribute some of that. I want to do a collective toast, a community toast.
Oh, yeah, I want the real stuff. Thank you very much. I got my appointment.
So if you would, I'll take mine over here.
Forgot my keys.
They're all different flavors, so don't think that may be sour.
On time. Oh, well, can't win them all, right?
So to emphasize, you're still waiting.
My comments are, let's keep right on going. I know, thanks. What?
Really? Is that what's coming next?
What?
This is
I don't
vodka, in it,
know.
right?
I'm having, I need to.
Okay, good.
Oh, oh,
Does everybody have one?
Uh-oh.
oh, is that?
Nicely done, Mr. Fornes.
Everybody have one? So can I ask everybody to stand up, please?
Yeah, this is,
Kind of come up a little front, maybe in the middle, all kind of get close to your
All
side
right,
in.
guys.
High school principal's kind of right here behind me. All come in closer. Board members, if you
Oh,
join
there
behind
she
me,
is.
move over here. Come up a little closer.
Oh, oh, where does he want us by him? Oh. I gotta be careful. I'm telling you, there's a reason why.
To the best school system in America, for the first time for St. Mary's County Public Schools achieving a graduation rate of 91.5%. Too many years of success for the young people in St. Mary's County. Congratulations, I toast you all. Here, 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 here. Salud. Salud. And down. And down. All right.
Well, I had to do something and it's ready. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, now, what do I want? Okay, I think, yeah, we're gonna have, no, wait a minute, I know what I'm gonna say.
Board members, Dr. Rathbone, I turn it back to you. I'm going to ask that you may want to say a few words. Board members, you may want to reflect on this as well.
yes, thank you, Dr. Martirano. Board members, Mrs. Allen, you want to make some comments?
I got my tissues out because I'm not sure I can get through this. As the largest portion of the county's budget, we often take pot shots about how we spend our funds and the fact that we ask for more based on our needs. But we have always asserted that we can point to many successes So the return on the investment for our taxpayers is absolutely there. But more importantly, the children that we're serving, nobody can take that away from us. And so to everyone in this room, I say congratulations, because you are truly the unsung heroes. We can make all the decisions in the world, but without every one of you to carry those decisions out and to make that personal connection to our students, nothing that we've done would have been successful. Not in the way that this has been. I am just absolutely overwhelmed by what you've done. And not a one of you ever complains about the workload, about the nights that you spend working to help our students and to help our staff make this possible. I am absolutely humbled to be in your presence. And I thank every one of you from the bottom of my heart, because what you've done is absolutely extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Allen. Mrs. Washington?
I am very proud to be a member of the Board of Education. I have dedicated my life to education and to ensure that all students get what they need to be successful and contributing members of society. I talk to my 83-year-old mother every day, and when she visited St. Mary's County, she's so impressed with the quality of education of our schools and the appearance of our buildings. Where she lives, the schools are not like ours. They're dilapidated and they're falling apart. And my mother say, I know they have a hard time getting students to go home at the end of the day. And she said, I know they are just miserable when school is closed. Because she sees the teachers and the principals at the opening of school, welcoming the students, greeting them, how are you today? And they're just there for the students. And she's never seen anything like that. Even during Dr. Seuss's birthday, I was sitting outside of school, and I was talking to her. I said, you should see the principal dressed up as Dr. Seuss. I see the cat in the hat. I see thing 1 and thing 2, and I take a photograph, and I said, look at that. Yeah, she is just so impressed. But I always believe that learning is from the womb to the tomb. I always say that it begins before the students get to us. It begins with the mother getting proper health care, and for the child all the way through school, and for the entire family. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, everybody needs the basics: food, clothing, and shelter. And many of our students don't have the basics. But we turn no one away. We accept no excuses. As you see, our mission is there. We take everybody. So we have many challenges to deal with, and we deal with them. No one person can take full credit for all the great gains that we have made with our graduation rate. It took teamwork and collaboration from all the elementary schools, all the middle schools, all the high schools, all the teachers, supervisors, principals, building service workers, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, guidance counselors, PPW workers, psychologists, resource officers, professional development and diversity training, mentors, community organizations. I can go on Board of County Commissioners, our Board of Ed, and a county which values education. And most importantly, our Superintendent of Schools. He is the leader. He runs the day-to-day operation of the school system at the direction of the board, and he does a fantastic job. We love him, we appreciate him, and we pray for him as well. He has a lot on his shoulders. And not only that, for his wife as well.
Pray for her.
Yeah.
Could you imagine living with this every day?
She's one of those unsung heroes that's in the background that takes care of everything. So he can work as hard as he does. He's all over the county, and he's everywhere. he's everywhere. And he reaches out to the community, he forms partnerships, he restores, and reinvigorate partnerships. I want to thank him, and I want to thank all of you in the audience for what you do. The system would not work if one of those elements, and if I missed anybody in my list, I apologize, but it takes the whole SMCPS family in our community to make it work. So just like my hand, if one piece is missing, my hand is not going to work well. And that's what everybody working together, the hand can work the best. So I appreciate my board members. I am humbled by the opportunity that I can serve on this board, and this is what I dedicate my life to. Thank you all. You're the best. I feel honored to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hodge.
Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Dr. Martirano, would you pull up that last slide for me? How did we get here? The programs are phenomenal, but it's about everybody that is on our bus together. We're all on the highway. We've got a great driver. He makes us nervous a little bit sometimes, but he always keeps us on the road, and he always keeps us heading forward.
Just a little bit. I'm not doing my job.
But it really is about the people. You all do wonderful work every single day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and it's because of you that we have these wonderful numbers. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. And keep up the good work, because, you know, we expect better next year.
I was waiting to see how long that would take. I said, enjoy the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mrs. Crosby.
You said it all, but I'm going to say something else because I never stop talking. A friend of mine once said, well, this is what you've always wanted, Marilyn. You worked for. All your life you worked to be on the board. Well, I was a teacher. And it just kind of came. And I'm not sorry it came, because I've enjoyed another aspect of education. And and I always talk about my grandchildren, but you know, once your children are grown, you talk about your grandchildren. But Blake, my granddaughter Blake, loves Dr. Martirano, and so does Josie. And he doesn't know ransom yet, but you will. She went over to him at the Santa breakfast with Santa, and she hugged him. And she said, what other student at St. Mary's County can say, I hugged the superintendent? Well, I'm sure they all do, because you are the Pied Piper of the students of St. Mary's County. And a champion, and it's so, you mentioned having a champion. My mother was my champion. Among my teachers were my champion, my principals, and I've always had champions. Well, my mother's dead now. But it's very, very important, as you said, to have a champion. And those children that watch you catch the fish, kiss the fish, next time you catch it and kiss it. They're not biting well. But anyway, that's so important to have a champion to look up to model yourself. You know everything. I'm just talking to the choir, as you know. But anyway, and then some extra things I wanted to say was, as we see the compulsory age for education will rise, which it's, in my estimation, it should, okay, to 18 eventually. Students must be interested. I saw something recently where somebody said, yeah, I'm so sick of all this diversity, in so many words. And I thought, wait a minute here. Why do you think all these kids are staying in school? They love the diversity, especially when they can use what they're learning from the diversity. And then you need a core. We have the core. We have the diversity. We have it all. Well, yeah, we do, don't we? Do we? Yes. We will continue to move forward. We moved a great distance, and eventually we'll be up to a 99.9% graduation rate. And I know I'll live that long, right? Thank you. You should all stand up and take a bow.
Thank you, Mrs. Crosby. talk about emotions, and many of us get very choked up at times. I've waited for 53 years for this day. Now I'm getting choked up like you.
I could
Everybody.
look at him and not.
Mary. How sweet it is! These are emotional times, and rightfully so. Everyone has worked so hard, not just yesterday, the day before, last week. Years of hard, hard work, all working together. It is time to rejoice, celebrate, celebrate, and celebrate some more. We solve problems. That's what we do every day. We solve problems. We never say no to anybody. We say, hey, wait a minute. Let's see if we could make it better. Let's find a way to move forward. There's no such thing in anyone's vocabulary in this room. We can't do that. And all of you know me. I don't believe in those words. We just do it. We find a way to do it. And everyone on this board believes the same way. And our great superintendent feels the same way. And I know all of you do, because we watch what you do. We come to the schools. We talk to parents. We talk to children. People come up to me on the street and say, Dr. Aspa, thank you. Thank the board for everything they do for our children. My child would have never succeeded if it wasn't for the staffs that have taken the time to work with my child and my neighbor's child. And you guys see it all the time. You read about it. You're there. I had a student of mine who got up at a graduation, Navy lieutenant, who said, if it wasn't for me as principal, she would have never gotten to the point. She was a reverend minister, a graduate of Great Mills High School.
Harvard, too.
Yeah, went to Harvard. Phenomenal. And we all do the same things. I just wish that we had more feedback from the thousands of students that have come through our school system. And the superintendent is beginning to collect data on that so we can see what is going on.
Right.
I've told a story about the young man who I didn't throw out of school. I didn't ask for expulsion because of some of the crazy things he was doing. I gave him a chance. He wrote me a letter and sent me a picture of his children. He's a neurosurgeon in Florida. If I would have thrown him out of school, would he have ever achieved that? Probably not, because there's always a stigma when you do that. But we don't believe in those kinds of things, and our data shows that. There's no question about it. And all of you, I know, are proud of what this all means. You have to be, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting in this room. You wouldn't be in St. Mary's County fighting for kids every day and helping us, this board, to go out there and fight for funding to build schools and to get proper equipment and to make sure the technology is there. Not antiquated technology, but the technology that is right on the line. Because that's what we want. We want our kids to learn, and we want to give them the know-how to be successful. We are all successful in this room, and everyone we touch when we go out there in our schools and the classrooms, that success is transmitted to that youngster, to that children, to those children. We solve problems, we make it better for all children. All children. We have Dr. Schaller with us today, another great educator, a Professor Schaller is what I should say. Bob, thanks for showing up today and being part of this celebration. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank all of you for making this happen.
We provide as many experiences as possible for our children. I wish we had more and more money. I guess there'll never be enough money when we're dealing with children and building educational systems. People say, how do you guys do this? My son lives in Memphis. And he said, Dad, I read about St. Mary's County. How do you guys do all these things? Why can't we do it here in Memphis? I said, well, why don't you send your county commissioners up here and your school superintendent and board members, and we'll show them how we do it. They could spend a couple of days with us. That's what you tell them to do. We salute all of you and all your staffs. We are a great team. You've heard this over and over again. Teamwork does work, obviously. We do have disagreements, and there's some arguments, some interesting arguments from time to time. But when the day's over, guess what? We all come together because we know where we're going and we know what we must do. Success for all children.
Absolutely.
I applaud all of you. This has been my life, and you all know that. And it will continue. I'm not going away just because I said I was going to retire and not run for a re-election. But I'm going to be still here, driving everybody crazy. As like one parent said to me one time, you are crazy. I said, you are absolutely correct, because you have to be crazy to have a job like this.
Yeah, that's true.
Ladies and gentlemen, I applaud all of you. This board applauds all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you have done.
Great.
We are very, very proud. Thank you. And we all applaud. All.
And board members, one final piece to this before we get into our budget presentation. I would like symbolically to bring the 3 high school principals up. Ms. Maureen Montgomery from Leonardtown High School, Mr. Garth Bowling from Chopticon, and Mr. Jake Heibel from Great Mills. And I'd like them to say a few words from their perspective of the work that's occurring in their schools so that you can see it. And I can guarantee you that right now their thoughts are with the class of 2014 and making certain that every young person walks across that stage. Can I have the 3 high school principals please come up?
I definitely want to take this opportunity to recognize the staff at Leonardtown High School. I mean, I loved what Mary said about the hand and the fingers, because it's nothing but the truth. Every one of us, you know, at the school works every day on behalf of kids. And it is a pleasure for me to be the principal of Leonardtown High School. It is a pleasure for me to go to work every day, simply because I am surrounded by a group of people that really love kids and love what they do. And if you love kids and you're flexible and you love what you do, you can work at Leonardtown High School. So that's, I really do attribute everything to the staff and the work that they do, from the teachers, the guidance counselors, our PPW going and getting those attendance problems to come to school, everything. It's just a huge team effort, and it's my pleasure. And Mike Loughran, who is the 12th grade assistant principal, has been for several years, and he really does a lot of work to start dragging some of those kids across the stage and getting things working. We are thinking about the class of 2014 right now, Dr. Martirano. You're right. I was sitting here thinking 93.98. How do I get to 95, 96, 97, 100%? So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll preface my remarks by saying what you're witnessing is what happens to principals all the time. We just found out 3 minutes ago when Dr. Martirano had been over. Would you like to say a few words? Sure. Absolutely.
Never say no.
No, that's right. 41 years for me, 3 school systems in the state of Maryland, 9 schools, been principal of 5 and vice principal of 2 before that. Spent 35 years before I came here. Now, I've been here 6 years, so I've developed something called perspective. Now, in 6 years here, I think I've experienced, seen, witnessed more success than I think I did the previous 35. Maybe just as much success in 6 years that I experienced in the 35 years before that. So why? So I was an outsider, always will be, I think, in St. Mary's County. But I'm trying my best. There's something different about this school system that I think we sometimes don't see it because it's right under our noses. I see Susie looking at me because she's experienced the same system I did before. There's an atmosphere, there's an environment, but more importantly, this is a very goal-driven system. There, you see what's on the walls here. This is just symbolic. What you see here is symbolic. Every day since I've been here, every time I've come to Moakley Street, there are very specific goals broken down by objectives. And it's very clear. It comes from the top, from Dr. Martirano, from you, to us through Scott or Kelly. And then it's up to the principal then to execute the plan. And that can be done by several ways. You can sort of crack the whip to motivate principals to try to work with their staff to get things done. That's motivation can be can be positive or negative. So we know that negative, Madeline Hunter taught us negative motivation, negative, that can work also. We know that positive motivation works better. So, you know, we drive away from here, all of us, and we go back to our schools, and we have a bucket full of data, and we come back from Kelly's or Scott's meetings, Dr. Martirano comes in. We could go back thinking, oh my gosh, here we go. But the fact of the matter is that because of the atmosphere of support, and never is there a frown or a badgering or a, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, what's going to happen? We do it as principals, I think. I'm speaking for myself. I think I might be reflecting the feelings of my coworkers. We do it because we feel motivated to want to do it. We want to reach those goals. We want to succeed because we know it's what's best for our schools. It's best for our system. So it's not the crack of the whip. In fact, you can't motivate a principal from the outside anyway. Motivation is an internal button. You can't reach somebody else's button. These kids who are graduating now, we had to do that, and you know you do it. Not by cracking the whip. You don't say, if you don't graduate, buddy, no, that doesn't work, especially with that type of child. They have to reach inside and press their own button. So we have learned to be a positive, supportive school system all the way down to the classroom teacher. And we learned to try to be more manipulative in establishing an environment that's going to increase the likelihood that they'll press the motivation button. You see what I'm saying? It's an internal thing when we just manipulate the external factors. So I just came from meeting with a social studies teacher who has 2 seniors who are failing world history, and now we are at the semester. Now we've got to meet with those kids. We don't do it. This system doesn't work by cracking the whip. This system works by, I'm on your side. I'm not the sage on the stage. I'm the guide on the side. I'm with you, and we're going to get through this together. And I think that same philosophy, that same approach starts with you, and it has filtered all the way down. And that's probably the best way in the last 3 minutes that I've been trying to think how to describe why this system has the impact it does. I think that's it. We get these kids motivated, not by pressure, but by inspiration, for lack of a better word. Thank you.
I knew I should have gone before Mr. Bowling. Rookie mistake. Well, I do have it reflecting on your story, Dr. Martirano. I can tell you, and Ms. Montgomery and I have a friendly competition all the time about everything. That story I told you of 5 more students, it's actually down to 4. We had another kid graduate, and we got 4. So only 4 more, and we would have hit 90%. And we're only 4 behind Leonardtown, but we're going to get there. In summary, and I can, my colleagues have said it so much better than I probably could. The truth of the matter is, at Great Mills High School, this didn't start yesterday. It started 10 years ago. It was a vision by Mr. Smith, who convinced me to go in administration when I vowed I never would. It started with my wife, the former principal, who did the groundwork, and I just walked into a great deal. It starts with the support that we've received from Dr. Martirano. Every time he says something positive about me, I always say it starts with you and the support you've given to our kids. And I've said this time and time again, Dr. M gets it at Great Mills, because not everybody gets it at Great Mills. Not everybody can work at Great Mills. And I say that to teachers when I interview them. This isn't the easiest place to work, but if you can work here, you can probably work anywhere in our school system anyways. And our teachers get it. And they get it because they make connections with kids. And that is the most powerful thing I can say. The credit starts with those teachers. The credit goes to the programs we have in place. They are a credit to Dr. M's leadership, to the supervisors who support us, to our teachers who, and I don't hold back, get down and dirty with our kids every day. It goes to Wendy and Rebecca for taking some of our hardest case kids and finding ways to help them get across the stage. It does take everyone in our Great Mills community. We're a very proud group of people down there, and we do fight a lot of stereotypes. And as I look at Dr. Raspa, former principal, he knows that. I love that challenge. I wouldn't be any place else but at Great Mills because of that. It's where I need to be, and I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. And the credit really goes to all those people, because that's what it's all about for us. So thank you very much.
You're just the best, simply the best. I think Ms. Montgomery told me that was your theme your first year I met you at Banneker Elementary. So I told I want you to tell everybody, but I think as I've gone along a little bit, I want you to tweet it out to everybody. If you would do that too, you all learned how to do that. So board members, we want to take this moment to celebrate. It is a compressed period of time to celebrate. We've now celebrated. It's now time to get back to work. In terms of, because the class of 2014 is counting on us, as well as the other children in the schools. So just one more round of collective applause, if you would. We'll take a little break, Dr. Raspa, and then begin the budget hearing. You're all more than welcome to stay for the budget hearing. If not, get ready for your bread, milk, and toilet paper runs and all that kind of stuff that you have to do to prepare for the storm. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
We'll take a 5-minute break.